So what we're going to talk about today is basic refactoring, when to do it, how to do it, as well as how to validate that a refactor you are trying to do doesn't break things. So what I've got is a basic kind of web service client here. This is code ripped straight off the internet. You can Google it. You'll find it probably 100 examples similar to this. I'm not going to talk about the merits or problems with actually getting URL content this way, but let's say this is our class, and this is this URL echo at .appspot.com is a service that will echo back any content you send it in the body. There's some other parameters, but for our purposes, what we have is a basic class that has a method that's supposed to send this content to a service, and it's supposed to return the string hello. And the kind of, I'll call it novice or trivial way to kind of test this is, you put a static main in here and you run it, and then you look at what comes out and you go, oh yeah, hello, good, my code works. So what typically happens now is over the course of the next few weeks, you need goodbye, bye, and if you're really clever, you'll remember to put this in here, and then you'll add another system out here, and we'll do hello, goodbye, and good day, I guess, is another one. Good day. So now, as a coder, this is pretty easy. This is not, this is probably the fastest way to get to solution. And we run our test here. And we see hello, hello. Oh, wait a minute. I guess we called the wrong thing here. So, goodbye. So now we've got the three types of content we're looking for. Call the service 3 times, we get 3 different results. The problem, obviously, with this is there's no assertion that this is correct. So you can run this locally, but if I'm developer, I'm on the 8th version of this, and I don't know that goodbye is supposed to be capitalized, and I make a change because I think it should be lowercase, I won't know that I've now just broken things. So anyone who's been coding for very long is probably familiar with a framework called JUnit. And what I would say, instead of, the trivial way to do this might be, wc.get hello equals hello, or doesn't equal maybe. Well, anyway, the trivial thing to do would be put assertions in here. We're not going to go down that path. This is just a really bad idea. Don't do this. Okay, this is not the way to do it. What you do is you add JUnit, and the version isn't really important. 4.12 is the latest right now. And then, by the way, let me back up just a minute. This is a standard Maven project layout. If you're doing Java development, there are other frameworks you can use. I would highly recommend, with all the, I've even posted on my dislike for some of the things about Maven, but the fact is, it is a well-known way of structuring projects. It makes it easy to onboard new people, and it's not overly cumbersome, and it does actually reinforce good habits. So now we're going to create a package for our test classes. And we will create our test case. So we're going to call it web client test. Now, test first, or TDD, or test-driven design advocates would say we should always have the test first. I don't necessarily disagree, but in this case, we're refactoring, right? We found a bit of code. I would expect in a large corporate environment or a large company with maybe inexperienced people, you're going to find lots of code like what I just showed you. So now this is a way to kind of protect yourself and start to build good practices into the organization and into your code, actually, because one thing we can immediately see here is if I want to add, say, a timeout, or I want to change the host that I'm getting this content from, this code has some problems. But what you'll find is often, one version of this has 3 extra lines in it that does one specific thing, probably because someone fixed a bug. What they may not have realized, if this code was large enough, that they fixed it in one place but not 2 others, and you'll keep getting regressions, or what appear to be regressions, but in fact they're just someone not realizing that they need to fix things in multiple places. So without further ado, what we'll do here is we'll add our hello test case. So to do that, in JUnit, there's a test annotation, and we'll create a public void test hello, and we create our web client. String hello wc.get hello, assert equals hello, comma hello. Now, oops, that's not what I wanted. I think it's actually equal. It is equals. Yeah, there we go. I had it right the first time. And I'm not sure why there are 2 of these. I'm sure one or the other is now the new version, but be assured that this works. So now we know we have hello, goodbye, and good day. So let's do this. Goodbye. And I'm leaving these somewhat broken intentionally to just kind of illustrate some of the value we get here. So now we're, this is a fairly lightweight thing to do here. We're now going to test our classes. And again, there's a Maven. It would be Maven test on the command line. Okay, we have a problem. And the problem is failed test goodbye, expected hello, but got goodbye. Okay, so goodbye. And again, the problem here right now is that we're inferring what the contract actually was, right? This is why having the test is important, because I don't know what good day actually was supposed to return based on the previous way of testing. If we're lucky here, yeah, so now we know that all 3 of these return, and we know what we expect them to return, right? So when we go back and look at this code, we see, well, we've got a bunch of lines of code here that are duplicated. And that's a problem, to my earlier point, because suppose you got a bug report for hello, and it says, well, it times out, it should time out after 5 seconds. What someone might do for that fix is do set, read timeout equal to, 5 seconds. Okay, great. That's fixed. But now we've got 2 problems, right? Or 3, if you start to think about it. First problem is we don't have a test for the timeout, right? And we're going to leave that one aside. The second problem is, well, wait, we only fixed it in one place. We actually don't even know if we should or shouldn't have fixed the other ones, but quite often this gets to a situation where I fix bug A like this, and then you go fix bug B like this, and then someone else fixes bug C like this. And one problem we see here now is now we've each inserted this value in a different place. So knowing, after 5 or 10 permutations of that, this code will not be an exact replica anymore, and it will be hard to tell if it's supposed to be consistent or not. And it just makes, basically that's triple maintenance. And again, the more times you copy and paste, the more maintenance you're creating for yourself. So what we're going to do is we're just going to consolidate all this code into a more generic version. We'll call it get data. We'll pass in the input argument. Now I realize this is a trivial case. Often the input parameters are going to be a little more complicated, but the principle holds true, right? The basic idea is plus input. Don't repeat yourself. And again, I somewhat blame the internet, and it's so easy to copy and paste things off there. Again, this code is, don't ever use this code in production, please. This style. This is rife with errors. There are libraries that help you do that. The only reason I would think anyone would do it this way is if they were somehow prohibited from using third-party libraries like Apache HC Client. So now it's a simple matter of get data. Hello. Get data. Goodbye. Now, another thing you want to make sure is that you can always compile. Now, I'm using an IDE, and it immediately tells me that this is not going to compile. You don't want to do too much work without revalidating your tests, right? You get into a 3-hour refactoring and realize you've screwed things up. It's not a happy place. And I expect probably 2 of these are broken. Oh, look at here, a good day, we got nothing. And again, this would be where you start to look around and realize that you're not as awesome as you thought you were. Doing it off the top of your head is not probably the best idea, and certainly having no test to validate that what you changed still behaves in the same way is a bad idea. Okay, great. So what we've done, if you want to talk about why you might do this, is we've reduced the amount of code, and we've reduced our maintenance by 2/3, and we've reduced the overhead of reading through this by about the same amount, right? The code used to have, I don't know, something like, how many lines of code is that? Well, it had 3 times as much code. It's much simpler. And moreover, now if we did want to start monkeying with the connection management, we can, and it gives us a common place to maintain this sort of common code. So that's our first go around at how and why to refactor. As a follow-up, one problem with this code and the way we're even testing it is often you'll be in a situation where this service doesn't exist, but you're not just simply echoing the input, it's a little bit more complicated. How can we test a web service on our local machine without access to the server side? There are ways to mock it, and a superior way, I feel, because it allows you to introduce the network component, is to stand up a local proxy, and you can do assertions on the actual calls that are being made. This gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can set headers, and it's a little simpler than mocking all of the URL connection type low-level stuff.